take a look back at some of those moments in comics when even the baddest of bad shocked us with just how evil and twisted they could be. We knew they were bad, but we didn't know they were this bad. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we'll be counting down the top 10 most shocking things supervillains have done. This is a part 2 to our first list, so if you missed that chapter, you'll definitely want to revisit it for more good old shock and awe. What makes a plot point or character change so shocking? Usually we feel shocked and surprised when something unexpected goes down. This either means the story involving a moment that did a complete 180, or a character who raised the stakes in the story in some unforeseen way. They took their dastardly deeds to some new heights, made our favorite heroes suffer in a way that we never expected. Let's revisit some of these jaw-dropping moments now as we get counting. Number 10 reveals their true colors. As we work towards building up to the X-Men event 10 of Swords, we learned a little bit more about Apocalypse's history, and the old mutant world, as well as his royal family whom he had left behind in Morocco a long time ago. Summoner arrived in Dawn of X and revealed himself to be Apocalypse's grandson, the son of his daughter, War. Summoner claimed that they needed to create a gate that would take them back to Morocco, and we learned that Apocalypse's presence in the Excalibur series had kind of been all about that for him. But the most shocking moment didn't come from Apocalypse himself, but from Summoner, who revealed that they were not indeed on the side of the mutants, and that their true plot was to lay a trap for their mutant grandfather and those fellow citizens of the mutant nation of Krakoa. Apocalypse ended up almost dying, while the mutant rockslide Santo Vaccaro actually did lose his life and was even unable to be properly resurrected due to the nature of his death. Number 9 kills Robin. Anytime a Robin dies, it's pretty traumatic, whether we're talking about Stephanie Brown being killed by Black Mask or Jason Todd being beaten to death and then blown up by the Joker. However, the first time these things happen tend to be the most shocking and most iconic, making Jason Todd's death just that more startling when it happened in Death in the Family. Despite the fact that there was a poll in place for people to vote on whether or not Jason lived, most wrote off the poll as not really mattering and being more of a gimmick than something that would actually affect the story. So everyone was exceedingly shocked when Jason Todd was killed off as a result of people voting for that to be the story's ending, even though, you know, we all knew that was probably gonna be the story's ending, because you probably voted for that, but whatever, I guess. Still shocking. And before we get to this next point, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here and watching this video. If you could, it would help us out a ton if you click that subscribe and click the like on this video. It really does help us out and we do appreciate it. Number 8 Dr. Manhattan's power. Batman Who Laughs is still a relatively new villain in comic history, but he quickly rose in popularity since his introduction. And he continues to not only rise in terms of his ever-expanding fan base, but also in terms of his power level. He was originally allied with Barbatos and then Perpetua. Currently, the Batman Who Laughs proved his mettle in a battle against Apex Lex and has the powers of Dr. Manhattan, which he stole. Yeah, he stole those powers. It's nuts. And while he is a villain who, you know, we expect to do all sorts of crazy things like stealing Dr. Manhattan's powers, the Batman Who Laughs still manages to surprise those of us who are already expecting a surprise from him in the comics with his diabolical and most devious plots. You can just never follow him. You're like, he's probably gonna, oh, and then he did something else. Okay then. Number 7 Adamantium go bye bye. Bye bye Adamantium. There you go. Gone. One of the most brutal things to happen to Wolverine in the comics as a result of the mutant villain Magneto, who now honestly is more hero than villain in the comics. However, at the time, Magneto ended up pushing the X-Men to a breaking point when he used his powers as the Master of Magnetism to pull all the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. Miraculously, Wolverine managed to survive the de-adamantizing process, but it cost him his nose and his wits as he became more and more animalistic. De-adamantizing, yeah. That's a word now, friends. I just made it a thing. Eventually, Wolverine would get his adamantium back, but the moment where it was taken was quite brutal. Number 6 breaks a back. One of the most shocking moments in comic book history comes from the Batman story Nightfall. In issue 497, in a story aptly titled The Broken Bat, Bane finally managed to defeat the undefeatable Caped Crusader. Batman was run down from working overtime when it came to being faced with all of Gotham's villains in one night. Bane took advantage of this and managed to break Batman's back over his knee, meaning that for a time, Batman had to retire while he healed. And at the time, many actually wondered if Batman would ever fully heal and return again. I mean, he just had his back broken. Most people don't, have their backs broken and then are just like, oh yeah, I'm fine, it's great. So this was a very startling plot point in and of itself to happen, and an astonishing victory for Bane, making him one of the most revered Batman villains to this day. Number 5. Helped heal Batman's trauma. During the Three Jokers comic, we learn of a dastardly plot wherein the three Jokers that we know to exist are seeking to create a new Joker to take over for them in tormenting Batman. Or to join them in tormenting Batman? It's a little unclear. Someone more inspired, basically, is what they're looking for. We later learn, however, that this is not the true plot at hand. Instead, it is revealed that this was all a part of one of the three Jokers' master plan to eliminate the other Jokers, so only he will remain, while at the same time helping to heal Batman of his traumatic past by giving him the opportunity to confront, save, and eventually forgive Joe Chill, the man responsible for killing his parents all those years ago. This plot obviously caught many of us off guard and left us flabbergasted by the end of the 3-issue series, as it is revealed the Joker did all this to help Batman heal so that he could claim the title of causing Batman the most trauma. It's just so twisted. It's perfect, but it's also so twisted. It's something most readers didn't see coming. That's why it's so perfect. Number 4. Monty. In Brian Azzarello's graphic novel Joker, we see just how twisted the Joker appears to his own people, the criminal crew that often work for him. We see him through the average criminal Joe eyes of Johnny Frost. Johnny becomes the Joker's driver and later confidant of sorts. When the Joker gets out of Arkham Asylum, Johnny is the one to pick him up and ends up taking him back to a club, eventually the Grin and Bear It, where Harley Quinn is stripping. Joker is not impressed by this and blames Monty, the club owner, who is also kinda supposed to be his friend, but is definitely terrified of him. As such, he and Harley take Monty to the back and skin him alive before ordering him to go out skinless and dance, paying him for his efforts. The other thing that's really terrible about that story is that Joker borrowed that dollar from Monty that he slapped on his skinless bottom after, so that's also really messed up. Obviously, Monty doesn't make it far during that skinless dance before he dies, but the whole scene in graphic novel really is just quite shocking. The whole thing is shocking. Number 3. Teamed up with Porky Pig. There are a whole series of bizarre but kinda great Looney Tunes and supervillain team-ups at DC because Warner Brothers. But the one I'm focusing on here is the team-up between Lex Luthor and Porky Pig. Porky Pig was really down in his dumps at the beginning of this issue, like deep down in his dumps. The beginning of the issue starts with Porky considering taking his own life, so it's really dark. But everything gets turned around when, while working at Lex's corporation, he is acknowledged by the big boss himself. Porky is lifted up by Lex and as a result teams up with him to help him promote his newest online service, Lexima. Unfortunately, this is also part of Lex's plan to use the naive Porky as a scapegoat later down the line, which Porky only learns after it's too late. Hearing of a Lex team up with Porky Pig is one of the most shocking things I've heard of when it comes to villain stories, but oddly enough, all these stories are also pretty well executed, so it's shocking, but it's also great. Number 2. Eats a Baby. What kind of messed up universe did this happen in, you might wonder? Why, none other than Dynamite's The Boys, of course. Although you might not expect that world to be as shocking anymore simply because you're just always expecting to be shocked. There are still those moments that, well, they manage to surprise you, like when we see Homelander eat a baby. Although that wasn't actually Homelander, it was Black Noir posing as Homelander. Black Noir in the comic series is a clone of Homelander who was created to be a fail-safe to replace Homelander if he went off the rails. But when Black Noir never gets the order to take out Homelander and replace him, it drives him insane. And so he decides to dress up as Homelander and commit all kinds of unspeakable acts in the hopes that it'll be enough for Vought to give him the kill order that he so desires so he can finally take Homelander's place. Though if you've watched the Amazon Prime show, we still don't know who Black Noir is, so this could be a thing that comes in, could be not. I think the series is gonna go somewhere else personally. Either way, a baby was eaten in the comic series, and that is just still shocking to me, even though it's The Boys and I should expect it. Number 1. Making a supervillain. Injustice was filled with shocking moments, although one of the biggest was the moment that kicked off the whole splitting of this very different reality from the history of the main continuity. In Injustice, the Joker came up with a perfect plan to corrupt one of his foes, and in so doing pretty much mess with his biggest enemy, Batman. This time around, Joker wasn't trying to harm the loved ones of Bruce Wayne, but Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman. The Joker kidnapped Lois Lane, who we had just learned was pregnant with Superman's child. When Superman rushed to save her, he was faced with Doomsday, who he fought furiously, eventually taking Doomsday up to space in order to defeat him. Alas, it wasn't actually Doomsday that Superman had been fighting. He noticed 2 heartbeats fading and realized Joker had actually tricked him into somehow hallucinating that Lois herself had appeared as Doomsday. Oh no! So Superman killed Lois Lane and his unborn child. It was this shocking act that would lead Superman to murder the Joker and become the supervillain version of himself in this alternate reality story. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. What do you think have been some of the most shocking supervillain moments? Are there any that we've still missed? Who are some of your favorite villains, and which do you fear the most? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.